Hello, this is Susan Duclos, and with me is Stefan Stanford. We are honored today to have with us Chuck Hindman, who is the owner of Mid-American Land Restoration. Chuck has been relentlessly documenting the high levels of radiation across America on his Facebook page, which we will put a link to in the article associated with this interview. And he's here to explain why he's done that, what his company does, and more importantly, what we can all do about it. Chuck, welcome.
Welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to educate.
That's what we're hoping we can do. There's a lot going on out there, and I know that you work tirelessly to try and educate people. So how about you tell us a little bit about your company and why you've spent so much time watching the levels of radiation over the last years?
Mid-America Land Restoration was developed many, many years ago to try and help agriculture and help in contamination cleanup. We started this, like I said, for a big portion was originally in agriculture. Then I moved into other areas because for chemical spills and oil spills or just contamination in general, microbes was here on this planet long before man. And when you start researching what microbes and microbials are, unfortunately we've got GMOs out there, but I am set in with 125 plus naturally reoccurring beneficial microbes. It's basically Mother Nature's probiotic for her to sustain and clean up our environment. And what I've done over the years, monitoring, trying to stay on top of what's going on in our backyard, right, I live right here almost the dead center of the United States. Breadbasket is a big, important part for everybody's survival in this country. Not only that, but it's economically. When you start looking at what economic 101 is, when we are dealing in contaminated soil and water, what does that mean? We literally have no economy if we do not protect Mother Nature. Because without clean food and water, what do we have? And, like I said, I try to stay on top of what's going on around here. And when I realized how severe things were getting 3.5 years ago with radiation right here in this country, and I started following it, and I started digging, and I kept on digging, and I've watched these numbers climb and get way out of line. I've decided, continue and keep pushing further and further forward. And in education, what I'm trying to get everybody to understand as of late, and it gets frustrating, as we all go out about our lives and try to help others that have no clue, but when tragedy hits home and you want to know why. The tragedies I am talking about are from heart disease to cancer to brain aneurysms, birth defects, thyroid cancer. As of late, we've found that dementia, and there's all sorts of forms of dementia. Dementia is on a big increase. And then when you look at what's going on with our birds and our animals, and the mutations with our plants and in humans now, as well as animals, crop failures, and tree die-offs. We have a lot of serious problems going on. As of late, Susan, as of late, they've started seeing the articles and started talking about the increase on the radiation safety, where they've just raised it 27,000 times and changed acceptable death rate. Well, if you go back to over a year ago, last September, I wrote a little article that talked about that very thing, and I tried to bring everybody aware to what was coming at them, and nobody was listening. And now we've got a few more people that are starting to learn it and get a little irate. But unfortunately, when we're dealing with nuclear meltdowns in Japan, and then the Chernobyl incident, where that roof collapsed on it, and then as people started wanting to know more and more, you know, if you Google search nuclear reactors leaking in the United States, you'll see that not only do we have problems from abroad, but we've got major problems right here at home. Most of our reactors are out of age, out of date, and depending on which source you look at, but on a variance, 75 to 85% of our own reactors right here in the United States are leaking right here into our own environment. And then when you start adding the problems from Hanford in that territory to the problems from the WIPP plant down in Carlsbad, New Mexico, when it spewed its run here a year ago, all of the documentation of the maps of that deal is posted on my page. You know, all of these incidences, they keep saying we're fine, we're safe, you know, nothing critical, but what they're not adding up is the fact that this stuff is still floating in our atmosphere. It comes down in all of our snow, all of our rain, sleet, whatever the moisture is, it's there. And, you know, when you start looking at trying to grow crops, grow gardens, play outside in the snow, if people aren't staying on top of what's going on, and then people want to know why we're getting so sick and why the cancer rates are going skyrocketing. And that in part lays with why I got so involved on trying to educate what the microbes can do. What people need to understand, right here in the United States, we are not ground zero. We are not ground zero. And the microbes can clean this up and keep us striving and keep us going. But people need to understand why and how to use them. And the microbes, there's no overdoing it. They're nature. And when you start looking at how much the microbes can benefit, or how much we benefit from them, it just keeps going and going. I've, knock on wood, haven't found something that we couldn't use the microbes for. So it's just, the key word is you got to be ready to use the naturally beneficial reoccurring microbes. Because last year, Kansas City Star out of Kansas City wrote an article, had an article talking about fungi in agriculture. Unfortunately, when you start reading that, Monsanto's trying to get into the microbial world. And that scares me, because I'm already here, and you cannot make a large amount of money on it because it's not patented. You can't patent nature. So I'm afraid that they want to play genetics with the microbes. And I feel we've got enough problems already out there. We don't need to create another monster.
Yeah, Chuck, this is Stefan. That sounds really good. We certainly don't need to create another monster. And anytime I hear about Monsanto getting into anything, it bothers me deeply.
Boils your blood a little bit.
I feel like right now we are a bunch of frogs sitting in a pot of boiling water. We don't have any idea what is really going on. But as you said, mysterious illnesses, cancers, and diseases are increasing all across the country. There's a story on ENE News right now. ABC tours the Fukushima plant and warning this could go on for centuries. Some say the problems can never, ever be fixed. What can we do? I know microbes is a possible answer. What about for people, for everyday? Is there anything that you can recommend for how we can best protect ourselves and our health?
Yes, the microbes. Our homes are just a sealed environment, just like the outdoors. The sad part about it is every time we walk in and out of the house or open a window, we're letting that outdoor contaminants in. Working with me, I can get you the equipment. I use cold mist foggers. I use a specific one. That way, if anybody that works with me, if their fogger goes awry, they call me. I can sit right here and talk to you up there in the mountain and set you up and set your machine up to where you can fog the inside of your home. There's several benefits from fogging the home. We're bringing down that outdoor contamination. We've done enough work over the last 2-3 years that we're also seeing an increase in molds because mold is tied to radiation. Chernobyl, when they started looking back into her, she's encased in black mold. And they're finding mold deposits, and mold and radiation go hand in hand. And that alone is scary considering how much of it we've got in our atmosphere. So when you start looking at what mold does to a person, the health effects of mold poisoning, if we can remove that mold from your home and remove the viruses and bring down the outdoor contaminants and make it a safer environment for you to sleep to where your body can recuperate and keep on going, there's a lot of benefit there to working with the microbes even inside the home.
Okay, we're not familiar so much with microbes, so you've explained how they can be used inside the home, so your body can regenerate and recuperate. What about outside your home? How specifically are microbes used? Like you talked about growing your gardens. Are they used in the soil? How do you take care of the outside also?
Just simple as spraying or dumping. Susan, we've reported on several different things over the last year. A year ago, last December, I was astonished when on December 31st of 2013, when I found the articles about bald eagles falling dead out of the sky. I'm a patriot, homegrown, right here in the heartland, and that bird means a great deal to me. It's a symbol of our freedom. And when we start looking at what we have lost in nature, and you as well as I, we've been hammered for using Nuclear Emergency Tracking Center because their numbers are so different than everybody else. The problem is, in ETC, Nuclear Emergency Tracking Center, in my opinion, are more on dead center of it than the rest of them. Because when you start tracking what's going on in nature between the eagles, the trees that are dying off, the plant mutation, all of the effects I can see in nature, there's no way we would be seeing those effects with what RadNet is putting up. Nuclear Emergency Tracking Center is more on the mark than what people even have a clue of.
I agree.
And when you start looking at the effects going on in nature, what we used to be able to put down in microbes in the agriculture 10 years ago versus what we got going on now, we have to triple to quadruple what we put down, because we've got a lot more contamination, we've got a lot more mess to clean up now than what we had 10 years ago. It's just simply by spraying. And you can spray applicate from around the house with a plastic or fiberglass hand pump utility sprayer to a sprayer pulled behind your little yard tractor to the big sprayers. The thing is, whether we fog, spray, whatever we use, we got to use plastic containers, because metal, aluminum, stainless steel changes the ions. Most of your formulators have 4, 6, 8, and 12 families. They're only produced 12, 16, 18, 20 species. Because I've gone so far over the top, we're pumping out over 25 different families and producing over 125 different species. We got a fine balance. I mean, we're balanced, but we can't push it anymore. So when we start applications and using metal containers, whether stainless steel, aluminum, whatever the case may be, we change the ions. So that's why using plastic operating is so important. So we don't change the ions and change the balance of what we've got going on. So we can spray, we can aerial spray, or fog. It's very key. It's very important. Along with all of the contaminations, the biggest push I've been trying to do here, even here on the state level, I've gotten so involved politically, state level, clear up to D.C. I went after D.C. in the beginning, and boy, did I get my butt handed to me. So I backed up, regrouped, and I started at the state levels, and then I backed back down to trying to work the local levels, and I'm working my way back up to state levels. And we've got opportunities here. I've got a lot of things going on. When everybody comes over to Mid-American Land Restoration page there on Facebook, there is a pinned article at the top. It's a go-to fund type deal. I'm just one person, and I'm playing against an out-of-control, no debt limit type of problem, and I can't fight politics. I cannot do this all on my own.
Right.
So if anybody wants to donate, that's what this donation was put together for, was to allow me to go to state levels and try and make a change. Believe it or not, one person can make a change. I've made enough noise. The doors are opening. I'm just not ready to step through that, because I know if I make too big a noise, the repercussions will follow. And I'm not quite stable enough and don't have enough ready to handle all of it. And that's where this fight has to come from all of us, not just me. So, we can do this through funding. Every campaign needs some contributions, and this campaign is literally a fight for our natural survival. So,
Chuck, I'm sorry.
The microbes will help us in more ways than one person can even imagine.
On the Nuclear Emergency Tracking Center, what have been recent high levels of radiation across the country?
Okay, on my page, we can go back to, I started a couple weeks ago. I went back and I started doing 2-month history runs. And prior to that, I had a bunch of them that were just 3-day history runs. But I'm going to start right here with the 2-month history run. I posted this one on February 6th. 2-month history run in Kearney, Nebraska, showing a high of 462 counts per minute on December 20th of 2014. Now, when we pull these charts up, you know, you've got the ups and downs. 300 counts per minute, we know where that's at. And right here in Kearney, Nebraska, just north of me, we spend just about as much time above 300 than we do below 300. Then I pulled numbers for Kansas City, Kansas. Same thing. We keep spiking up and dropping down. Kansas City, 2-month history run, the high of 469 counts per minute on January 25th of 2015. Wichita, Kansas. We're still right here in the heartland, breadbasket of this country. 2-month high, 420 counts on February 1st. Then we go to Colorado Springs. 2-month high there was 739 counts on December 13th.
Oh, my God.
Grand Junction, Colorado, 830 counts per minute back on December 12th. San Diego, California. You know, Susan there, when we were watching what I was doing here several months ago, every time I reported on San Diego, next night, you know, they were offline.
Yes, I remember writing about that. They would go very, very high, and then all of a sudden they would disappear. And when they came back, they were in the teens.
And because they changed filters and tried to redo things. But they were offline for a great amount of time. When they came back on and got busy, February 6th of 2015 had the high at that point in time of 643 counts. Then we bounced over to Bakersfield, California. 2-month history, 598 counts on December 11th. San Francisco had a high of 384 on the 25th of January.
Okay, now just to give people that are listening to this and reading this a comparison level, what are, I know they raised them, but what does the government claim is safe levels so people can see what these highs are in comparison to safe levels, supposedly?
If we go back to when they first started doing the nuclear testings, back in the 50s, when they tested the nuclear problems in the ocean. Back then there was, and it's recorded, there is no safe levels. They determined that the ionizing and the radiation, there is no safe level. The government keeps raising them. I don't know what the set standard is now. Like I said, they raised them. I've tracked the raise. I believe this last one is the 7th raise in it since Fukushima. The week of Fukushima, when it was announced that we would not see any effects of Japan here in the United States. I looked at that television and that news network, and I said, you have got to be out of your mind. What people need to realize, if you seal off or halfway seal off your kitchen, and you start boiling water nonstop on your cook stove, and you keep boiling, what's going to happen in your kitchen? You're going to have water condensation dripping from the ceiling.
Exactly.
Your countertops are going to be wet. What do you think 4 nuclear reactors are doing under the same atmosphere instead of it being floor, walls, and ceilings? 4 reactors are a whole lot bigger than a cook stove, and we have the same prevailing jet stream.
Yeah.
And then when I first got involved in this fight, Berkeley Institute out of California, they had an article that came out that I had nothing to do with the writing of it. And they point blank put us, the United States and Canada, the kill zone because we're the first landmass of Fukushima.
So we're the kill zone.
All of the atmospheric problems, and then our west coast with them continuing to dump in that ocean. Okay, every time we get a storm front, whatever, it's just simple basic science 101. What goes up must come down. Whatever evaporates in that ocean goes up must come down. We're the first landmass. And because it's atmospheric, yeah, the west coast gets hammered, but it's just not the west coast. It's the entire northern hemisphere. This stuff keeps circling. What steams out of Unit 3's crater today will be right here in the heartland in 15 to 18 days. It circles this planet every 40 days.
Certainly, most people don't see the big picture. Chief Seattle once said that we are merely a strand in the web of life, and what we do to the web of life, we do to ourselves. Now, if this radiation was not invisible and could be tasted and touched, let's say it came in the color purple, do you think that people might stand up and take a look and say, what in God's name is happening with all this purple everywhere surrounding us?
That is very much it. But there is a tattletale sign. If everybody would understand what the effects of radiation poisoning are, and there are many journals out there, there's a lot of it, but that metallic taste you keep getting in your mouth, that's radiation.
Well,
that is a #1 tattletale of radiation, the metallic taste in your mouth.
Well, that's a good thing to make sure everybody understands. Well, Chuck, I want to thank you very much for doing this with us and for explaining this the way you have. I'm going to hit you up for some of your graphics. I know they're all over your page, but the specific ones that we're talking about today, the Nebraska ones, the Wichita ones, the California ones, so that in the Colorado ones, so that we can actually post them so people can see. I'll go ahead and find out the supposed safety levels, even though we will make sure to explain that there are no safe levels. And I will get this over to you as soon as it's done. I'm going to make sure that I link to your Facebook page as well as the individual. I'll have you send me the individual links and your GoFundMe so that you can continue fighting the battle for the rest of us.
Well, like I said, education is a big step forward. One of the biggest things, getting involved politically. They don't want people to know for one major reason. They don't want mass panic.
And there definitely would be panic if they knew, huh?
Right. But at the same time, panic is nature, and then you got to educate yourself. Educating yourself in understanding what the microbes can do. They've been using microbes over there in Japan. They've used the microbes right there at Chernobyl. You can see controversial articles. People don't understand why, the rice levels in Japan have dropped so dramatically in the last 2 years. And it's because the microbes are there. They're using the microbes in those rice paddies. I've seen articles where they were using the microbes in the orchards with the fruit. The soil is contaminated, but when you cut the fruits open, the fruits are not contaminated. People can't understand how that can be possible. Ladies and gentlemen, it's possible because the microbes are here. This is nature talking to us. People need to wake up.
Great, Chuck. We thank you so much for taking the time to talk with Suzanne and I, and we will certainly do this piece justice. We thank you, sir.
You all have a great day, and thank you for the opportunity to try and educate.
That's what it's all about.